Hello students. Today I'm going to go through and help you with your L3 lab assignment. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter Blackboard here. We're going to click on class sessions. We're going to go to the major lab assignments. And in here you're going to find our L3 Amatrol sequence of events step logic, which is intended to be done in a team atmosphere. So I'm going to click on this and open the folder. Inside the folder you'll see the actual assignment, and you're going to see several attachments that are associated with the actual lab assignment. So first I'm going to open the document. Tell it to just go ahead and open here. Okay, now once that's open, I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. Close this. You're going to notice we also have some images here with a JPG file extension, means it's an image. And these images we're going to use to help us get started. So the goal of this exercise is to create the electrical and pneumatic schematics, wire the trainer, and then program the Amatrol PLC trainer using step logic to control the sequence of events. To complete this assignment, you need to upload your electrical schematics, your pneumatic schematics, your RSLogix 500 program with annotations and run comments, and then provide a checkout summary of the issues or problems or objectives that you learned in the assignment. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open this back up here. So these are our objectives. In this assignment, we're going to create the electrical and pneumatic schematics, wire and program, like we said before. Here are our modes of operation. We have auto mode, manual mode, and reset mode. Here it's going to give us better descriptions of how to achieve these. But these will be our steps. Step 1 is going to be energize and seal in the motor. Step 2 is extend cylinder 1. Step 3, extend cylinder 2, so on and so forth. And we'll get to that when we start programming our RSLogix. So I've included a picture here so you have a reference of what the PLC station looks like. But in the suggestions down here, it tells you to start by reviewing the pictorial of the LabVolt trainer, then create both your electrical and pneumatic schematics, determining the I/O assignment you're going to use to control the machine. So that would be the first thing we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and close this, or minimize it for now. And I'm going to open up the AutoCAD electrical software, which I have running already. And you're going to see it opens up with a blank screen. Just make sure that you are using AutoCAD electrical, as noticed up here in the title bar. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get a template. So we're going to click the big A up here in the left-hand corner. We're going to go to New and do New Drawing. And we're going to choose the AutoCAD Electrical and hit Open. And now you can see that that has brought up a template for us. Remember, we can pan and zoom by pushing down the scroll wheel of your mouse. And you can see it has just changed to a hand, and I'm going to move this over by just moving my mouse to the middle of the screen. Okay, so now we're going to start adding some components, but we don't know what to add yet, so we need to go back to our assignment, and we're going to pull up the Amatrol MicroLogix 1000 JPG. Okay, and here you can see the image of the documentation that coincides with this particular PLC. Noticing here it's a MicroLogix 1000. It's a 1761-L16BWB, and that's the important information that we need for AutoCAD Electrical. So now I'm going to go back to AutoCAD Electrical, and I'm going to choose a 1761-L16BWB by clicking on the Schematic tab, then the Icon menu. And it's telling us it needs to put some information in our drawing. That's okay. Go ahead and accept that. And I can click over here on any of these over here, or I could click over here on the images. Anytime you see a plus button associated, that means there's more information, so I expand that. And I'm going to expand this again. Now I'm going to choose the MicroLogix with a 1/2 inch spacing, but before I do, I'm going to change my schematic scale. I'm going to change this to 2.25, and then I'm going to click on the 1/2 inch Micrologix spacing. And now you can see the options come up, and we want the L16 BWB. So I'm going to click on that, and you're going to notice that it comes into the drawing, and then just moving it around, we can place it wherever we want in our drawing. And we're going to place it roughly in the middle of the page, and then click with a left click. Now it's coming up to edit the PLC module. We can tell it what we want the addresses to be, but for this assignment we'll just stick with the default, with the first address being I:9, and I'm going to hit OK. Alright, so that is our PLC. It is on our piece of paper. These are going to be our inputs and our output connections. And we know that it is a DC PLC, so we're going to have to add some wire connections to it. If we come up here to Wire and click Wire, that will make our wire menu active. And I'm going to come down here to the DC COM, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better here. If you can see right here, this is our DC common. Notice when I get over the side of it, it turns to a green hourglass. That means there's a wire connection there. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out now, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I'm going to move to the left with my mouse, and then I'm going to go up to the top, and this is going to be my L1 connection. I'm going to bring it up to about here, trying to keep the line straight, and then I'm going to left click again. Now notice if I move to the right, I've got another line. If I just hit my space bar, that will exit the line command. So there I have a line. I have another DC common here, so I'm going to just come over here, get on the center of that terminal screw and connect. Come over here, and when I get lined up, the line turns red. I'm going to click again. Now notice there is a wire connection there with that node, meaning that the wires are connected. Okay, so that takes care of those connections for us. Now we're going to have to start putting in our inputs. So the easiest way to do this is come down to your first input, draw a connection, left click and hold, come over and about somewhere in here, go ahead and click again, then come up and try to keep it lined up with the top one, and click again. And now notice that I still have a line active here, so I'm going to hit the space bar. But if you notice down here, I don't really like how that ended up doing, so I'm going to undo that by pressing the Control-Z key, hit the Escape key first to get out of any active menus, hit Control-Z, and that line will go away. So let's try that line again. Remember, I'm panning and zooming, so I'm clicking the wire. And come down here, and when it turns into the green hourglass, I left click and hold. Actually, I don't hold, I just come over here. Now I'm happy with this right about here. I'm going to go straight up. And the goal here is to try to keep that line straight. And when it turns green, we're ready to click again. And now we're going to end the command by pressing the space bar. And now you should see that those lines are crossing over, meaning the wires are not connected. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, however many inputs we're going to use, we're going to go ahead and draw the lines. So I'm going to click here, come on over, and when I get there and it turns red, I'm going to click again. I'm going to do this for about 3 of them. Click, come over. Once it turns red, that means I can connect the wires there. Click again, and I'm going to do one more. Click, and then come over and click again. Okay, so I've gotten these wires already in there. Now I'm going to start adding some of the real-world inputs to it. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to put in a push button. I'm going to start with a normally closed push button, and notice that when I click it, I have it in in my cursor here, and I'm going to line this up on the vertical here so that we can keep all of these nice and straight. And when I have it there, I'm going to left click, and I'm going to call this a stop PB. We can give it a description if you like, or you can keep it just with the component tag. And I'm going to hit OK. Now you'll see that button is in place. Now I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to go grab another push button. And then I'm going to grab a normally open push button. Notice that I still have it in my cursor. Bring it up here on the vertical. And when I get to, whoops, we want to come down here. And I'm going to click, and that places it inside the wire. And then I'm going to hit Start PB and hit OK. So there you can see I have two of the inputs, the real world devices already attached to the PLC card. And I'm going to let you work on adding the rest of them. So now let's go ahead and put in our outputs. Here you can see we have a plus 24 and a minus 24, which that's going to be the power to the actual PLC. So we're going to start by adding a wire. Come over here, and when we get to the middle and it turns to the hourglass, I left click, I move to the right, and just like I did before, I'm going to come up and over and kind of keep them on the same plane as we have on the left side and click. Okay, I still have a wire, so I'm going to hit the space bar to exit that. Then we'll do it again, come over here, and I am going to click. So I have a plus 24 and a minus 24. So I'm going to bring this one up, and I'm going to bring this over to about here and click. Okay, notice still active, so I press the space bar and it cancels that command. So for the outputs, well, we have to determine what types of inputs and outputs we're going to use. If we look at the requirements, it says I'm going to be energizing a motor, extending a cylinder, retracting a cylinder, and ultimately having a cycle complete. So let's take a look at our trainer. Going back to Blackboard, looking at the assignment, we have the inputs here, we have the outputs here, and we have the image of the actual trainer. So I'm going to click here, and this is our actual trainer that we're going to be programming. So I'm just zooming in a little bit here. I have cylinder 1, cylinder 2, and I have a motor. So I can see that these cylinders are being controlled by a directional control valve, each one of them having their own solenoids. So if I come here, I see solenoid 1 associates with this solenoid 1. Solenoid 2 associates with this solenoid. The M1 corresponds to the M1 here. And we have the red light and the green light. So being the designer, we can choose whatever output we want to connect to the PLC. So I'm just going to choose a red light. So now I'm going to go back to AutoCAD. Activate that. And I can use any of these outputs. Output 0, output 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But notice that each output has its own volts AC/DC common. So that means that this group of outputs can use either AC or DC, and we could split them up if we wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that output now. If I come over here and look, I have an icon for pilot lights here, or I can come over here and click the plus button and find pilot lights here. So we have master test, we have neon, and we have just the typical pilot light menu. So I said we were going to use the red one, so I'm going to click red, bring it over here, and again I'm going to try to line this up on a vertical grid bar. So we'll come over here. Whoops, before we do that, we should have put our wires in. So I'm going to hit the escape key to cancel that, because it's easier to add the wires first. So we're going to hit the wire, come over here to output 0, come over here, and we're going to be connecting it to the minus 24 volts, which would be our common. We'll do the same thing for this one here. Come over here and add another one, and when it turns red, that means it can make a connection there. And I'll do one more for you. We'll click, and we're going to come over and then click again. So there we've got our wires inserted and attached to the 0 volt side, or the minus 24. So now I'm going to go back to the icon menu and get that pilot light. Notice our recently used are over here, so I could just grab this one and come over, and I'm going to insert it. I'm kind of thinking that right there might look good, but let's go. This one here, we're probably just going to go in the middle, so it seems to look best. So I click, and notice that it came in. And here I can call this the auto light if I wanted to, or I could call it the manual light and hit OK. And there you can see it puts the output graphic symbol in there, and it also puts a description of it. So let's grab another one. And now, since we don't have the green one here, we're going to click Pilot Lights, hit the green one, come over, and again, just trying to line these up. I'm going to go ahead and click right here. And if that was manual, then I'm going to make this auto and hit OK. So I've got a red light and I have a green light. Now I must connect the power to the actual module on the volts AC/DC. So I'm going to grab the wire, come over here, attach right here and click. Come over here, and I want the plus 24, and then I am going to click there. You'll see we'll have a wire connection there. See the node? Do the same thing here. Click, come over, and you're going to notice that we just go across that wire, go to the plus 24, and click again. And we have our wire connections there, and we can also see how it has jumped over the other ones, indicating that there is not a wire connection there. So adding any other additional inputs or outputs is relatively easy. It's always best to draw your lines first and then put your components in. Notice I have one left here. We have a ground, so we need to go into our icon menu to find that ground symbol. So we can close these out, and remember, you can drill down through all of these to find whatever content you're looking for. Hit the plus button, and I believe it is in here. If we just hit miscellaneous, there's that ground. So I can come here, click the ground, and then I can click here as well. But notice how it may be offline now. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to hit Control Z, which is my favorite undo friend. And then I'm going to try to put the line in first so that we can keep our lines nice and straight. Notice I zoomed in a little bit. I'm going to click, come out a little ways, trying to keep the line perfectly straight, and then click again, and then cancel the wire command by pressing the space bar. So I have a line now. Now it will be easier to put that ground connection in. So I click on miscellaneous, I click on ground, and then if I come over here, we can see that it wants to go right there. So I just left click, and there's my ground connection. Okay, notice that part of a schematic is to keep all of your inputs and your outputs perfectly lined up, your text lined up, and make it a very, very nice good looking diagram. So now we need to label these. So I'm going to click on the line, then I'm going to click on a blue square. I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit the wire number, and I'm just going to click on edit wire number. And here we're going to call this the 0 volts because this is our minus connection. I'm going to hit OK. And now notice that it connects that up there to the top, and we can see 0 volts right there. If we don't like that there, we can click on it, and then left click and move it wherever we want it to go. So I'm going to click right there and let go. Now hit the escape key, and you can see I have 0 volts. Okay, and then I can click here and do the same thing, and then right click and then hit wire number, which we're not really using a wire number, we're just giving it a name. So we're going to hit edit wire number, and we'll call this plus 24, meaning positive 24 volts, and hit OK. And now you can see that we have that in our schematic as well. If I click on it and then left click and move, I can put it wherever I want to. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so that is the beginning of your particular schematic. Now to save this schematic, what you would do is come down here and right click on the model tab and hit plot. Tell it what plotter you want to use, and we're going to be using the Qt PDF writer because we're going to turn these into PDFs. Make sure it says fit to paper, center the plot, and we have several choices here. We're going to stick with display. And you can get a preview here. So let's change that to extents, and you can see we have more area there. So we're going to hit preview. Okay, so if you were happy with your drawing and you liked how it appeared on the paper, which you need to do this before you print so you have an idea of what it's going to look like, you would come up here and hit print. But before we do that, let's make another change. I'm going to close the preview window, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to add some information to our title block. Okay, if you see over here, I'm zooming in by using the scroll wheel on my mouse. And if I scroll over here, notice that the images change. Okay, I can come over any of these items here, over the red, and it changes. I'm going to go to drawing title, and I'm going to double click. And here you can see up our attribute editor. And each one of these items that's editable will be displayed. So we have title 2, 3, 4, and title 1. I'm going to click on title 1, and I'm going to type Ivy Tech. And notice that that pops up in our screen there. So now I'm going to go to the next item that I want to put in here. I'm going to put the date in here of 2-1-13. And I'm also going to put another title in here. We're going to put title 2 in here, and we're going to say ADMF for title 2. And then we'll do one more title. We'll call this L3. And that was our step logic. And then for title 4, just go ahead and put your name in title 4. And we'll call that good. And hit OK. Alright, so now we have some information in our title block to make it look pretty. I'm going to zoom out here, and I'm going to push my mouse wheel down. Turns into a pan and zoom. So I get that back where I want it to be, and centering it. And then I'm going to right click one more time on model hit plot, change this to the Qt PDF writer, fit to the paper, center the plot, and I'm going to tell it to display the extents. Now notice it shows me up here what it looks like. So when I go to extents, it shows me that I'm going to be getting the whole drawing. And again, we're going to preview first. And if our drawing looks okay, which it does, we're going to click on the printer icon up here to tell it to plot. And now notice it says plot and publish job complete, but we're waiting for just a second till we see this come up here on the bottom, or it may come up here on your screen. We must save this as a PDF file name now. So we're going to call this our L3 electrical schematic. And then save this in a location where you can remember. I'm just going to put mine on the desktop and hit save. Okay, so that's how you would insert your electrical schematics. Okay, so now I'm going to go up here and we're going to start all over, do a file new. I'm going to go file, new, and I'm going to do a new drawing and hit open. Notice we have a blank screen now, and I'm going to position this in the center. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on Insert Components here, making sure that the Schematic tab is active. And if I scroll across the bottom here, it says Insert Pneumatic Components, Hydraulic Components, or P and ID Components. So we must also create a pneumatic schematic, so I'm going to click right here, left click. Wants to put information in my drawing. This is fine. And now you're going to see I get a lot of pneumatic symbols. So we got to go back to our drawing here and our image of our trainer to see what types of actual control valves we have here. This is a solenoid directional control valve, and I see that we only have one coil going to it, so that means that that has a one coil, so most likely it is a two-position valve. So we would need to find that in our drawing. So I'm going to go back to my new drawing here and find the information that I would need to create a pneumatic schematic. I mean, I can click on miscellaneous here, flow arrows, all types of different items. We could go with quick disconnects, left operators, right operators, three-way valves, and I said we had probably a two-position valve. So we have a normally closed valve, a normally open valve. If we click the plus button here, we have four-way valves, so there was no plus button there. So we would take a two-position, and it should be a five-way valve. So we'll just take one of these valves for now, just for illustration purposes. And notice how it came in probably going the wrong way. I'm not real happy with that valve. So I'm going to cancel that by closing the X, hitting Control Z on my keyboard, and now it's gone. So I'm going to change my icon menu here where it says vertical. This is talking about how the particular item will come in. So I'm going to change this, and then I'm going to go back to a four-way valve again, and I'm going to click on a, we'll go with a two position here, and notice how that valve came in with a different orientation. We'll just call this valve 1 for now and hit OK. So here we have a valve. May not be the exact valve we use on our trainer, but at least gives you an idea of how to insert a valve. So we have a valve there, and if that valve is too small, which it does look kind of small, let's Control Z that a couple times till it goes away. Okay, Control Z is the magic undo button. I'm going to go back to the icon menu here And let's scale this up a little bit higher. Let's go to 3.0. We'll go with a 4-way valve here. And 2 position, 3 position, single solenoid spring return. I think that's the actual one we have on our trainer. So we're going to click this guy here, bring it in. Okay, and if you're happy with that overall size, we'll call this valve 1 again. Hit OK. So now we've got a valve there. So if we wanted to add more things to it, we could go and find a cylinder now. We could do a double acting cylinder with cushions, without cushions, etc., etc. So we'll just grab a cylinder extended here, and we would maybe place it up here. And hit OK. I'm just going to leave the cylinder name alone there. Now, these aren't wires, but they're going to actually be terminal connections. So I'm going to connect here, come down, and then connect there. And then I could connect the next one, come to here, and then bring it down and connect to there. So now you can see how we would connect our particular plumbing lines. So we go back to the icon menu. We need to find a power source. Let's click here on our pneumatic symbols and see if we can get the icon menu. I don't see that. Sometimes we can look in the miscellaneous items. And you can even cheat sometimes by just putting in generic arrow here indicating that it's a power source, which is what we'll do. We'll just come up here with a flow up arrow, and then we'll add a wire there, bring that up, connect it to there. We have that flow connection now, and we would need to just add an exhaust here. So here you can see how we get the basics of creating our pneumatic schematics. Just like our electrical, you just grab the components, add the wires. Okay, so I hope this helps you with AutoCAD Electrical. It's a very cool tool and a very useful tool in the creation of schematics.